Hi everyone, and thanks for coming to the Family Voice Surrey annual event. As you all are aware, this year we're focusing in on transitions to secondary school. I'd like to introduce you to Conrad Benefield. Sorry, Conrad, I couldn't even say your name this morning. He's a senior commissioning officer for short breaks, and we'd really like everybody to kind of know about what short breaks is and what they offer, and specifically what they can offer for children who are of the age who are transitioning into secondary school in Surrey. So, Conrad, welcome. I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about what short breaks is to start with.
Thanks, Kate, and thanks for inviting me to contribute to this event. So, short breaks provide play and leisure activities and overnight respite as well for children and young people with disabilities. They aim to develop their skills and confidence and their independence, give them a chance to have fun and improve their emotional and physical health. But also importantly, they give parents and carers, families a break from their caring responsibilities as well.
Great, thank you. I think you did a survey recently, didn't you, around ascertaining the benefits of short breaks?
That's right. So and we're doing some work on the back of that to review and develop our outcomes framework for short breaks, which we use to measure the effectiveness of short breaks. And one of the key changes that we're putting in place with that is that we're going to be measuring outcomes for parents and carers and families, primarily through engaging directly with parents and carers who use short breaks and asking them, what has been the impact for you and your family.
Brilliant. And will you use that feedback to adapt how the short breaks runs?
That's right, absolutely. So obviously we, as a council, we want to make sure that we're getting the best value for money out of a service and that it's achieving what we want it to achieve for families and for children and young people.
Okay, great. So if I was a family and I wanted to understand what short breaks were available to me and my family and my child in my area, how would I go about doing that?
So there's a couple of ways you can do that. There's an information leaflet which has recently been published for us by Family Voice and Surrey Youth Focus, which gives you details of the key providers and how to find their information. The other way to find out is primarily through the local offer, and that will also tell you about other activities in the community which aren't necessarily funded by Surrey, which are suitable. So if you go to surreylocaloffer.org.uk and then go to the directory, or you can Google it, you should find it, and then you can search for activities. We will be recommissioning our short break service from next year, and I can talk a bit more about that, but that will mean that there'll be new information coming out towards the end of this year, beginning of next year. So we'll be looking to provide quite a lot of new information for families about the new services coming on stream next year.
Okay, thank you. So if I was a family, I could go onto the local offer, for example, look up short breaks, and it would tell me the list of providers that are in the area and whether they would be applicable to my family.
That's right. That's right. And ultimately, it's for the family to contact the provider and talk to them in more detail. So we don't manage the short break service directly. So families are free to contact providers, have a chat with them, and providers will be very keen to make sure that they can support your child's needs. So they'll be very proactive and helpful in helping you to decide what's best for your child.
Thank you. And the family, they register with that scheme, do they, the provider?
Yes. So each provider will have their own specific arrangements, but generally you would register with a provider. Typically, if you haven't used short breaks with that provider before, they'll probably invite you to come to a sort of a taster session, just to see, how your child gets on, whether that's the sort of environment and sort of activities that they're going to enjoy, and so on. But the individual providers will be able to give you that information about what's involved.
Brilliant, thank you. And cost-wise, Conrad, how is it subsidised by Surrey? Or is it part subsidised by the family, or how does that work?
So So quite a lot of the funding for short breaks does come from Surrey County Council. It varies by provider, but generally we will provide the majority of the funding. Providers support short breaks as well through their own fundraising income. And most short breaks, with the exception of overnight short breaks, there is a parental contribution. So there is a small amount of money, relatively small amount of money, which parents are asked to contribute. Typically for a 6-hour play scheme or youth scheme, that's between 20 and £35 for a session. But all providers do have arrangements in place to support families who find that difficult. So they will have arrangements to reduce the fee or waive it or defer it if the circumstances justify it. So parents can ask providers about that if cost is going to be an issue.
Okay, thank you. And you mentioned earlier about the process of recommissioning or retendering, as families might have heard of it. Can you tell us a bit about what that looks like and what that means?
Yeah, so we've had the current contracts in place with providers since the end of 2017, and we have to renew those contracts, restart that process. We can't carry on forever with the same provision, so we have to retender for that provision, and we're right in the middle of that process now. Towards the end of the year, probably November or early December, we'll have a very clear idea about what the new service from April next year is going to look like. And we'll be focusing on getting new information out for families about those services, who's providing them, where they are, who they're for, and so on, and how to access them. So there may be changes to the provision in a particular area if a different provider is going to be operating that service. If that's the case, we'll be working closely with providers to make sure that families are supported through that transition so they know what's happening. They get the information they need to manage that change if it happens. So we will be supporting families through that process.
Thank you. And when does that the new process commence, Conrad?
So the new services will start on the 1st of April next
1st
year.
of April.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
thank
the
you.
current services will continue right up to the end of March, and then the new services will start. But we're obviously getting the new services planned and ready and underway before then.
Thanks. And am I right in saying that once a family is registered with a certain provider, then that means that they will get notification of when their booking windows are for each half term or summer holiday or Christmas holiday?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And going forward, we're going to work with providers on that. So that we'll be helping to share that information with families about when those booking windows are, so that and we know that they're different for different providers, and that's something we're going to look at to see if we can address that to some extent going forward. Not necessarily straight away, but in the longer term, we're going to look at whether we can make that a bit easier for families in terms of the different arrangements that providers have.
Thank you. And can families book in with more than one supplier, or can they register with more than one supplier?
Absolutely. So there'll be currently, and there will be going forward, there's specific provision for different needs. So for example, to support children and young people with autism, and families are free to register with whichever providers they want to. So they may want to register for a combination of provision with different providers. That is fine. And then individual providers obviously will work with them in terms of what they can offer and the numbers of days they can offer them.
Thank you. Now, with the short breaks, as you know, our transition event is around primary to secondary school transition.
Yeah.
What is there available in Surrey from a short breaks perspective for children or young people of that age range?
So our short break service caters for children and young people from 5 to 18. And many of our current providers have specific provision for young people, sort of 12 to 18 years old. And obviously that provision will have a more distinctive focus on supporting, teenagers and young people, to have those good outcomes around having fun and making friends. And some of those activities will also focus on things like life skills, and encouraging young people to, go out into the community and things like that. So there will be, and going forward with the new service, there will be the same arrangement. So we will be commissioning specific provision for that older age group.
Okay, thank you. And do they operate at weekends or summer holidays, or how does it operate?
Mostly weekends and summer holidays at the moment, and going forward, that's our intention, is that there'll be a range of provision all year round, for children and young people.
Great, thank you. Okay, so if a family wanted to find out more information about short breaks, or wanted to send an email in with some things that they thought would be particularly relevant, how would they do that?
So there's a couple of things they can do. So you can go to the Surrey County Council website, surreycc.gov.uk, do a search for short breaks. That's your best bet in terms of finding out our information. That's where you'll find our short break statement, and so on. You can also go on the local offer page. So I think I gave before, so that's Surrey local offer .org.uk, to look for what's available in your area. And as I said, there is information available from Family Voice and Surrey Youth Focus, and we'll be providing more information about the new services, and getting that out through as many channels as we can towards the end of the year, about the new services coming on. If anybody wants to directly contact us in the commissioning team, they're very welcome to. Our email address is shortbreaks, all one word, .commissioning@surreycc.gov.uk. So please do ping us an email if you've got any comments or suggestions, or questions. Obviously, we can't necessarily support if you've got a query of a particular provider, but it may be that we refer you to providers if they're the people to help you. But by all means, do contact us.
Thank you. And Conrad, one of the things we hear from families quite a lot is that, that they have some great success stories and great stories to tell us about short breaks, but they feel that there's not enough provision available for what their child wants. So, for example, a family might apply for half term for 3 or 4 days, and they might get one. Is that going to change? Why is that?
So if I answer the second bit first, I think why is that? Obviously, because there is a limited amount of provision available within the funding that's available for short breaks. And in terms of what happens going forward, as I said, we're in this tender process, so I can't be specific about what's going to happen from April. But we will be looking to get the best possible value for money we can from our providers for the new service, and we've been working with them to maximise the provision they can deliver. And we also want to ensure there's a fair distribution of provision across Surrey. So we'll be looking at how we deploy the new service in a way which means that, where there's higher levels of need across the county, there's higher levels of provision. So we will do what we can within the budget available to maximise the provision that we can offer.
Okay, thank you. The last question I was just going to ask is to say, does short breaks cater for any child with any additional needs or disability? And, how can we give parents confidence that when they drop their child off who's got a range of different needs, that they're really going to be kind of looked after and in safe hands?
So I think the key to that, firstly, is for parents to really make sure that they talk to providers, make sure that providers really understand. The providers will ask for a lot of information at registration, which should help with that, so they get a full understanding the child's needs. But yeah, ultimately it's really, providers are well placed to support a range of needs. So hopefully they'll have that assurance when they've registered and when they've applied for places that the provider understands their child's needs. At the same time, our expectations and requirements of providers in terms of safeguarding and providing a safe space for all the children to access the service are very strong and very high. And that's true of the new service as well, in terms of the evidence we're asking new providers to give us about their safeguarding procedures and their health and safety procedures. So we can give parents a very high level of confidence that, their children are in safe hands with providers. But the key is making sure that they tell providers everything that the provider needs to know so that they can support them. And providers are always there to answer questions, address any concerns. So hopefully parents and carers will have that assurance.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you, Conrad. Is there anything else that you think families would like or need to know about short breaks?
I don't think so. I think just that they're there. We know that a lot of families don't know about them. And as I've said before, there is a limited amount of provision, but we do want to try and encourage families to see if short breaks can help them. Yeah, so no, thank you for the time.
Thank you for coming. Thanks, everyone.